Hey, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. You're listening to the longest running superhero role playing game on Earth. I'm your host, the Game Master, and before we get into today's episode, smash that like button, make sure you're subscribed, and leave us a comment. That helps us out on our end with the YouTube algorithm, but also we love to hear from you guys. We've got an awesome community here, and that's thanks to you. So thank you so much for being here. So having said all of that, let's get into it. The prologue to today's game session begins on Earth 551-963-220 with the wedding of Wanda Maximoff and Victor Von Doom. After their honeymoon, Victor uses his mastery of both magic and science to help Wanda unlock her true potential. So, in other words, despite the fact that it is the 1960s on this particular Earth, Wanda Von Doom is like we see her today in terms of what she can do with her power. And that brings us to the main plot of this game session, when Victor and his new bride take on the Fantastic Four. Unlike Wanda, Sue Storm cannot do all the stuff she can do now, where writers have really added to her abilities over the years. In fact, this battle takes place so early that Sue hasn't even figured out how to make force fields yet. So because of that, she's not really much of a target. Instead of her, Wanda focuses on Sue's brother, Johnny. At the beginning of the fight, when he says flame on, nothing happens because Wanda is already altering probability fields. So Dr. Doom just uses his pistol of all things and takes a shot at Johnny while he's powerless. He hits and Johnny drops. At the end of his turn, Dr. Doom activates his own force field. Next to go is Sue, who runs to Johnny's side and is rolling dice and using her medical skill to no avail. She's sobbing and she's screaming for him to stay with her, which does nothing to calm down the ever-loving blue-eyed thing, who at this early stage in his mutation is still what the phase rip system refers to as the quote-unquote lumpy thing. His skin is orangish and thick, but it is not yet solidified and become stone. Jack Kirby himself likened this phase of the thing's career to the thick hide that a dinosaur would have. Anyway, so that version of Ben Grimm charges Dr. Doom, and while his attack does get through the force field, it does not do enough damage to hurt Dr. Doom's metal armor. Next to go is Reed Richards, and the player who was playing Reed was torn between making a first aid roll on Johnny versus attacking Dr. Doom. So they rolled a 10-sided die. Evens, they help Johnny. Odds, they fight Doom. They rolled a 7. So Reed attacks Dr. Doom, but like Ben Grimm, Reed can't get through Doom's many layers of defenses. When Wanda gets to go again, she asks what the chances are that poor Ben's heart just can't take all the stress of this. So she causes his lumpy, oversized heart to go into cardiac arrest. While beating on Doom's force field, Ben Grimm holds his chest, then drops to his knees. On Victor's turn, he uses his magical Eldritch bolts, which don't attack the body. In the DC Heroes RPG, we would say that these mystical assaults target the spirit attribute. So Victor drops Reed. Sue looks on in horror as her entire team is not only wiped out, but it happens fairly quickly now that Wanda is in play. Sue is furious and wants revenge, but she also knows that she can't stop the villains right now, so she turns invisible. Wanda says she can alter the chances that Sue stays invisible, but Victor tells his new bride that Sue is harmless and to let her have her grief. Because as much as Victor hated the others, he does not hate Sue, and he gives her a chance to retreat and mourn the loss of the Fantastic Four. Instead, Sue goes to Avengers Mansion, where she enlists the aid of Ant-Man, the Hulk, Iron Man, Thor, and the Wasp. Because again, this is all happening so early that Captain America is still frozen in ice somewhere in the ocean right now. Anyway, so Sue tells the Avengers about the mysterious new Bride of Doom. As the Wasp comforts the grieving Sue, the male Avengers head to Latveria, where Doom is celebrating his recent victory. As soon as the Avengers arrive on the scene, Wanda takes away Banner's ability to become the Hulk. The Avengers get swarmed by Doombots, and Thor starts blasting the robotic copies of Doom with lightning bolts, frying their electronics. On Doctor Doom's turn, he uses dimension travel to banish Banner to a dark dimension with no air or heat whatsoever. As Banner begins to suffocate, he's out of range of what Wanda was doing to him, so now he does transform into the Incredible Hulk for all the good it does him. Because even the Hulk needs air, and there's just none here. Ant-Man shrinks down and enters a Doombot trying to figure out how they work, so they can use something like radio waves to shut down all the Doombots at once. And as Hank Pym works on that, it's Iron Man who goes toe-to-toe with Doctor Doom. And at first, the two of them seem evenly matched. Seeing her husband getting attacked, Wanda uses her probability control on the gadget that is keeping the shrapnel out of the heart of Tony Stark. She asks what the chances are that this gadget would just stop working. And as before, she succeeds. So despite all of the powers his armor has, Stark is now helpless, and he drops to his knees, clutching his chest. Wanda scolds Stark for attacking her husband, and Victor thanks her. The Wasp then does a surprise attack, doing a flyby shooting, hitting Victor in the eye with her Wasp sting. Even the mighty Doom is temporarily blinded in one eye and distracted, so Thor hits him with lightning, pushing the attack, wanting to avenge the death of Tony Stark. But Doctor Doom's armor repels the attack, and when Thor throws his hammer at Doom, Doom opens a portal, banishing the hammer to a realm that is extremely hot and bright. Thor gets in close, punching at Doom, but eventually, without his hammer, he reverts back to Dr. Donald Blake, and Dr. Doom then crushes his head with his bare hands. Ant-Man actually manages to turn off the Doombots, but Wanda uses her powers on the Pym particles. Hank can shrink down to the size of an ant, of course, or sometimes we've seen where he can grow and become Giant Man. So Wanda decides to have half of the Pym particles shrink while the other half grow, and Hank is just ripped apart at the cellular level. Doom then blasts the Wasp as she is the last Avenger to fall. Wanda says more heroes are going to come for them, and Doom says, "Let them. We are unstoppable." Which brings us to the epilogue. Magneto flies to the icy waters of the Atlantic Ocean, where he uses his magnetic control to lift a forgotten German air vehicle from the icy depths. It is said to contain a devastating weapon, which Magneto hopes will aid him in his endeavors. But to his surprise, at the controls of the aircraft, Magneto finds none other than Captain America, the man who liberated Magneto's camp in 1945. So even though Steve Rogers is human, Magneto still feels that he owes him a debt of gratitude, and as such, he has his mutant followers begin the process of thawing out the living legend of World War II, which seemed like a good stopping point. These fights are time consuming and they have a way of eating up an entire game day, even if the story feels pretty simplistic. That said, I think that my players had a pretty good time with this one. Hopefully, you guys also enjoyed it. And if you did, we would love it if you took a quick moment of your time to smash like, make sure that you're subscribed, and leave us a comment. And from everybody here at the longest running superhero role playing game on Earth, we hope you have a good one, and we'll see you in the next adventure. Bye.